My story starts in early 1969 in New Mexico. My biological grandmother found out that her controlling boyfriend had gotten her pregnant. When she brought up what they would do had she ever gotten pregnant, he looked at her with hate, punched her in the stomach, and said, "I'd kill both of you." The next day, she fled to Arizona to live with her aunt and uncle for the remainder of her pregnancy. On July 18, 1969, she delivered a baby boy who was missing an arm as a result of a sickness she had when she was a few months pregnant. The next day, this boy, my dad, was sent to foster care as planned. My grandma stayed in Phoenix to continue school and try to find a family to adopt him. 2 years later, her great aunt and uncle stepped up to adopt him. Most of their kids were out of the house, and the mom was lonely while the dad was rarely home due to him being a truck driver. My dad was permanently in Madison, South Dakota. A few years later, my mom moved to Madison after a fire had burned her family's house down and her dad became the new sheriff. While growing up, my mom's family was strictly Catholic. She grew up going to a private Catholic school for as many grades as the school offered. When she moved on to high school, she joined my dad at Madison Public High School. She was a freshman and he was a sophomore. Not only was she a year below him, but she was also a band geek. A nice band geek. My dad was one of the popular guys of his class. He was outgoing, athletic, and daring. Sometime at the beginning of his senior year and her junior year, their circle of friends brought them together. Although they had known each other vaguely before, they started hitting it off and being one of those cute, annoying couples. Since my dad's dad was never home, my mom's family pretty much readopted him, spoiling him with fishing trips, hunting trips, and the occasional beer. They were a love story teen girls dream about. But even fairy tales have bumps in the road. Since my dad was a year older, his graduation time came and my mom's did not. They never exactly had the talk about what would happen after graduation, except a few informal mentions of marriage and a house with a white picket fence. You can imagine my mom's surprise and heartbreak when my dad told her he didn't want the relationship to last outside of high school, and he wanted to go to college as a free man. He had received numerous scholarships to South Dakota School of Mines and Technology 6 hours away, and was leaving to study geological engineering. Dad was partying even more when he moved out to Rapid City and making friends of a lifetime. He was living the college life most teenage guys would die for. But there is another sad twist to the story. Back in Madison, his mom was getting sicker and sicker from lung cancer and emphysema, and my dad was no longer there to take care of her. He received mean phone calls from his siblings and dad accusing him of being selfish and leaving her to die. She would constantly tell my dad that all the other siblings had their chance at life long ago, and that it was now his turn, and to make the most of his knowledge that got him a scholarship to such a prestigious school. She said, "We adopted you so you would have a better chance at life, not so you could babysit me. Now get off the phone and go study." So he did. He tried harder for his mom. Meanwhile, my mom finished out her senior year in Madison while still suffering from a broken heart. One day in February, my dad got a phone call from a family friend. His mom had died, and he was 6 hours away in the middle of a school semester and without a last goodbye to give him closure. Dad came back to Madison for the funeral, where he not only mourned the loss of his mother, but was berated and verbally beaten for not staying home to take care of her. It was clear he had been ousted from the rest of his family. This all gave my dad a lot to think about, and he had plenty of support from his high school friends, and even his old high school sweetheart attended the funeral. My dad had decided to pursue a life of people who supported him, which brought him to something wild. He asked his ex-girlfriend to prom, who, knowing they were both broken-hearted, said yes. This is an actual photo of my parents at my mom's senior prom, where they rekindled their relationship and decided the past is in the past. Aren't they just precious? Continued to date through the summer, and then they both went to Dakota State University in the fall. Fast forward 2 years to September 21st, 1990, when they were married in the church/school my mom grew up in. Again, this is a real photo of them. Can you tell where I get my red hair? 3 years later, they had their first and only child, me. I've always been a daddy's girl, and I always will be, because my dad's family taught him how not to be a parent. And my mom's taught me that forgiveness is one of the main things that you'll need in life. I couldn't be luckier to have the parents that I do.